I am an artist who would love to live in the delusional world where we could just make money trees in order to survive. However, the harsh reality is, in order to live out our artistic dreams, we need money. And I have the solution: artistic entrepreneurship. Now, you must be wondering, well, who is this lady and what does she know? Nisambula Vinaka, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sachiko Soro. I am a Euro-Fijian. I am a Lami girl. Lami is my yasa, my hood, where we grew up making bilimbili that we hoped would finally get us to Mosquito Island, where we used to save up our coppers so we could stroll to the shop to buy Chinese lollies, where our tongue was a slang of Fijian English and Hindi, where we ate barfi to celebrate Diwali, made lovo during Christmas, and had halwa for Eid. I discovered I was an artist in Fiji, learning and performing meke in primary school for our annual Independence Day, and performing with our local Cook Island group with our strict and scary "Don't Mess With Me" Auntie Jenny. In secondary school, I felt the pull of the arts filling me into the creative center at our university here, where we danced and played drums and sang, and we were full of hopes and dreams. So at the tender age of 18, when we usually pressure our youth to make life-determining decisions, I decided to go to New Zealand to study music and dance. It was a completely different context, a little bit chilly, but being stubborn, still refused to buy proper shoes and just added socks to the usual flip-flops. And people would always ask me, "Where's your accent from?" And I would always say, "I'm from Fiji." And they would always say, "You are not from Fiji." And I would think to myself, well, where do I come from? And they would say, "You are not from Fiji because you are white." And I would think to myself, "Sa, auna numa ana yellow ni biti." I was lost and I was confused. And it was the first time in my 18 years of existence I'd been really confronted with this fact. Cue fully fledged identity crisis that would consume my time of that period of confused youth. I have now come to a place where I'm comfortable within my skin, know that Suva is my home, where I'm local. I love my community, and I'm comfortable within the conflict that my identity has to those outside our globalized urban Pacific reality. After the New Zealand escapades, I came back to Fiji and worked at our local university. Whereas when we had funding about AIDS, we would dance about AIDS. And we had funding for the environment, we would dance about the environment. So we just lurched from one funding field to the next, so we could continue to do what we loved, which was dancing. But if we had no funding, and then what? How do the dancers get money to survive then? I realized that even in Fiji, we had inherited a system that is very broken. With this realization, I went on to start my own contemporary Fijian dance company that would have dancers at the core, with the purpose of creating fulfilling and financially sustainable career paths for young Fijian artists. In order to do this, we had to maintain independence and thus base ourselves around the concept of entrepreneurship. And it hasn't been easy, but having been in existence for 10 years, at least we've proved that it is possible. And we are now at the stage where over the years we've slowly built up to the stage where we have 30 dancers employed, we have 2 schools and over 250 students. So it hasn't been easy, a lot of trial and error situation, but it has definitely been rewarding. And over the course, of course, life happens during all of this. And I fell in love with a rugby-playing banker that finally graduated to become a drama queen dancer. And I fell pregnant, as you do, and I held my tummy and I said, "Hello there, Baba. Look, I don't know whether you've thought this through or not. You see, your father and I, we are both dancers. So when you bust out of there, you've done your time. It's going to be a lot of fun and music and costumes. But it's going to be unpredictable. unpredictable. And this was a pivotal moment. See, artists, we walk a precarious line. It is uninsured. And this is the perception of society, but it is up to us to make it insured. It is up to us to make it predictable. Artists, we have to fend for ourselves. We cannot rely on the whim and will of those who will or will not fund our creative practice. We must become entrepreneurs because the arts is a business, and we are in the business of changing the world. So we can't rely on economic handouts if we are to maintain independence. And if the current arts sector career model doesn't fit, then you just create your own. Artists have become funding dependent. We rely on governments and NGOs to fund our creative practice. But is this sustainable? If no one is willing to pay for what you produce, then it is not financially sustainable. And if you rely on funding all of the time, how do you know that what you are creating is of any value to society? And of course, we do need the pure ideas artists that push concepts such as climate change and war. And in the first world, this may be possible because there's funding available, but usually only to those who know how to play the funding game very well. I remember in music and dance school in New Zealand, we were never once taught about accounting, about marketing, about creating a brand for what you produce. We did, however, have proposal writing class. And with a growing population with diverse needs, we have less and less arts funding available for more and more artists. So if you get funding for your creative practice, that's fantastic. But what if you don't? Are you just going to pack your bags and give up on the dream? You say, I'm sorry, baby, no food for you. And your mother's going to be one eternally grumpy woman because now she has to go and work in an office. This is where the importance of entrepreneurship comes in. Because in the developing world, such as Fiji, we have to fund roads and hospitals before we can cater to the needs of artistic expression. And I would argue this is actually a gift because it forces entrepreneurship on us. And perhaps we do not lack resources, only resourcefulness. And I'm not saying that funding is bad. At times it is absolutely necessary. However, let's not rely on it because being artistically entrepreneurial gives you one thing, and that is freedom. Now, in order to illustrate these points that I've made, I've rustled up some amazing whiz-bang scientific graphs for you today. So that, as you can see, illustrated here, is why I am not a visual artist. This is the traditional arts sector model. We have on the left, we have the powers that be that usually are traditionally the supporters of the arts, government, NGO, corporate sector. They fund the artists make the work, it is consumed by the public. Now, these dudes up here have to have their mandate realized. They have to have what they set out to do achieved. They have to be fulfilled. It's not 100% necessary that either the artist or the public is fulfilled. Because in order for this to happen again, all of the funders' boxes needs to be ticked. And here we have the entrepreneurial model. We still have an artist. He's smiling because he's an artist, and we get to do what we love all day, except for maybe the poets. They can be a bit depressing sometimes. And as you see, the first one had one input, one output. This model here has two inputs and two outputs. See, this dude is a smart dude, and he's come up with some commercial arts, a niche market that he can cater towards in order to provide cash flow for his creative practice. And the government NGO corporate might want to jump on this bandwagon too and fund him, but if they don't, that's okay, he can still survive. And with both sources of income, he can also go on to make the artistic work that he wants to make and communicate the ideas that he wants to communicate. So, for example, with what we were doing, in 2013, we had a really good idea. Well, we thought it was a good idea. Apparently, other people didn't think it was a good idea. And we were looking at urban drift, and we were like, man, all of us we're from Suva. And at some point in time, either our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents moved to Suva. So what effect is this having on the loss of cultural knowledge? this urban drift, and we were curious and we were worried about the loss of cultural knowledge within Fiji. So we went to the funders that be, and we went and we said, "Hi guys, so we are worried about the loss of cultural knowledge, and we are interested in researching how the effects of urban drift on cultural knowledge." And they said, "No. No, 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 no. We have funding for women, and we have funding for the environment. No urban drift." And we said, well, see, those issues are really important as well. But see, what we were really curious about is like the effect of urban drift on cultural knowledge. And what if we reverse the urban drift and seek knowledge that way rather than coming to Suva? And they said, "We regret to inform you, but at this time, your application has been declined." Translation, a big X from the judges. Luckily, we were a little bit resourceful enough to have put aside some commercial dance revenue and had a small grant approved to be able to push on with the research and development of this project. And it's a good thing we did, because this piece has now since toured the world and been seen by thousands of people. In this photo, you can see 4 of the choreographers that went on this research trip who developed the work, alongside 4 female dancers as well. It's a traditional Fijian warrior running through an urban Suva cityscape. So, in order to communicate this, I've developed a crash course in how to become an artistic entrepreneur. I call it Map It. Now, it's just like a map. You write it down, it's a plan, tells you where to go. And just like a map, you can start anywhere. So let's start with the idea. So what are your skills? Let's use the same creative skills that you have to make amazing paintings and music and dances, and develop innovative products that can cater towards a niche market. Team. Build your team, your network. And once you have an amazing team, you empower them, and you believe in them, and then they believe in you. Marketing and branding, very important. There's no point in being the world's best origami craftsperson if nobody knows about it. Accounting. There are so many artists that are like, "No, I cannot do it. I cannot do this numbers business. I will not do it. I am an artist. I just create the art." But that is rubbish. And if you can learn how to tap dance, you can learn how to work an Excel spreadsheet. Pay. Please pay your artists. They are professional. It's not like they wake up one morning and they're like, "You know what? I think I'm going to become a concert pianist." No, it is a lifelong calling. And this is twofold, because sometimes us artists, we look at other artists as competition, and we're like, but this is wrong. It is essential that we unify and work together so that we can raise the platform together and demand fair payment for the services that we provide to society. Artists, it is so important that we do this, because we grow the next generation of open-minded thinkers with each brushstroke, note, gesture. We are responsible for holding a mirror to society, to make commentary, to force us to think and question the unthinkable and the unquestionable. Who can inspire us to pick up the pieces after disaster strikes? Who can heal a broken heart after a loved one has walked out the door? Who can carry us when we have been struck with grief? Who can push us when we need to be filled with courage? An artist can do this. To dance and sing and paint, it is a valiant act and an honor. Who inspires those curing cancer and those on the front line to go on In this computer age of detached relations, screen segregation, who gives us the experience to remind us that we're human? Artists have been at the forefront of every epic era. What symbolizes decades gone past? The music, the fashion, it remains. Who is brave enough to speak the truth about what is happening in our society? Art is a language that requires no translators. It reaches through borders and oceans and connects the world. Art is a footprint of all people, all cultures, and all time. The rebels of every period challenged us to look at our values and pushed us into the next period of our existence. A doorway to the past and the present and the future. Artists tell us stories to help us make sense of the world. Art can transport you to different places and cultures. And great art can help you look within yourself, allow you to see truth. So artists, it is our duty to go on. Let us be sustainable. Let us be entrepreneurial so that we may be prosperous in order to serve our society. Dua, rua, tolu va.